viruses and diseases, but we have had lots of calls and lots of information as officers, so we can try and help you answer any questions that you might have. Might be able to offer some resources for you as well if we don't know the answer to those questions, so we can try and help you. I guess what I'll say is stay engaged in this process. That way you can be the leader of your facility. Right now, some of us are golfing and some of us aren't. I think you want to be on the forefront of this to make sure that if your manager or your board or even your membership comes to you with questions or concerns, that you can be a leader of your facility. I think it can just benefit you in the long run. So stay engaged to what's going on in your local area. Stay engaged what's going on in the state of Iowa. Stay engaged what's going on a national level. We're just getting so much information coming down the chute. One of my concerns is we're just going to get overloaded with information and we'll start to turn a deaf ear. So just try and stay positive and try and stay engaged. I want to thank my fellow officers for the calls and the texts and the rest of your Iowa Section board. It's been a really united front. I get a lot of thanks for what you're doing, Matt, and that's great. It makes me feel good, but there's just a whole army of people that are doing tons of work, and it's the officers, it's the board, and the most important is Greg Mason and Tess Gowdy and their staff. Thanks for what you guys have been doing through this whole process. There's tons and tons of information. You're meeting on weekdays, weekends, 8 a.m., 5 p.m., conference calls. It's just tons of information. So thank you very much to our section staff. Please, in this process, make safe, educated, factual decisions regarding yourself, your staff, and your customers. Some of your staffs are going to want to work. Some of your staffs are going to are going to be fearful of their jobs and their hours. This might even include yourself. Each state is different. Each county can be different. Each section can be different. Just try to be educated and aware with factual information that impacts your life and your employee's life. Opportunities for resources. PGA.org, I think, is your best opportunity for resources. If you have not been to PGA.org, I would strongly advise you to do that. Every conference call, every person, every single thing I've been involved in throughout this entire process, they just keep talking to us about PGA.org. I'm just going to regurgitate that back down to all of you. Go to PGA.org. I've had success with the CDC.gov website for finding some recommendations. I would strongly advise that you go to that website as well. Iowa Workforce Development and other government agency websites. I'm a 60 Minutes watcher, as my fellow officers know. I talk about it all the time. Interesting story last night about the unemployment statistics and what's going on in this country. I guess if that's part of your world in your life, which it's okay if it is. There's a stigma about government programs. Ditch that stigma. Throw it out the window. These stimulus packages are meant to stimulate this economy, not to pick up people that have failed. It has nothing to do with failure. These packages and programs are meant to help golf courses, golf pros, your staffs. Take advantage of those resources. Ditch that stigma. Leave it at the door. It's not necessary. The Iowa Workforce Development can be a great resource for you. Just be ready for probably a lot of holds and a lot of voicemails, weeks worth maybe. So if that's something that you think is coming down your path, you might want to start on that 2 weeks sooner than you think you need to, because that's going to be a long process. Be educated on your local authority. Eventually, they're going to be the ones that are going to kind of dictate your world. So your county health departments, your municipalities, public health. Be educated in your local authority. Governor Reynolds is on every day at 2:30 for her state level press conference. Awesome resources there. Daily emails from the Iowa section are an awesome resource. We're still seeing really good read rates on those, so please let's continue to see that happen. That's kind of a barometer for us to know on how we're talking to you, is if we see those read rates or those open rates. So stay engaged with those daily emails. Carrying down my line, I don't want to talk forever, but be mindful of the optics in the court of public opinion about how this whole situation is unfolding in front of us. When I wrote my personal agenda that I'm reading to you now, for last week's meeting, I was concerned about people making a big splash on social media, drawing attention to ourselves. Boy, has that shifted in 5 days. Now I'm going to tell you to be mindful of the optics of some of your fellow golf professionals are not working. Some of them are out of their jobs. Some of them on one side of a river are not allowed to be open. People are dying. We're complaining about potential lost revenue and hardship. At the end of the day, there are people that are dying from this disease or this virus. Be very mindful of the optics of how this looks when we advertise. If you do an interview in a newspaper, if you do any form of communication, speak from facts, be extremely empathetic that this is rocking people's worlds, so to speak. So it's not all about business revenue. There's more to it. Obviously, as you know, try to just carry a bunch of empathy in your heart and in your tongue. Evaluate your own business. Me personally, I've contacted almost all of my vendors and talked to them about extended dating on all of my invoices. My business is not currently at that point yet, but I don't want to wait until I'm put on hold for 3 days before I have to have that conversation. So if that's something that you think is impacting your world, you might want to start looking at that, of what you can do in your job and in your own facility, of what you can do to protect your business, show value to your employer. You want to be the person, I'm going to steal some words here, you want to be the person that your boss, your manager, your board leans on as an expert and to help save your business here, if you're at that point. Finally, I'll just wrap this up with call your neighbor golf professional. They were your competitor last month. They might be your competitor 2 months from now, but they're still your neighbor golf professional. And we're all in this together. We always have been, and I think we always will continue to be. The old adage is if golf is doing really well in your geographic area, then you're doing really well in your geographic area. So look out for your fellow member. Make a phone call, shoot a text message. Doesn't have to be long. Just reach out to your fellow members, see how they're doing. If your life is in a stressful spot right now, which we all understand, stress is a real thing. It physically impacts your health. Do anything you can possibly do to handle that stress. It'll be a difficult thing. If you feel like you need some assistance, PGA member assistance program is a great resource. Want to blow off some steam, that might be a place to do so. Again, be mindful that everybody's being impacted in this in different ways. If you don't feel like it's really stressful on your life right now, that could change today, tomorrow, next week. So try to be empathetic. Be a leader and an expert at your facility on this situation, and stay educated as it changes daily. If you have questions, again, use the chat feature. I think I took about twice as long as I wanted to for section 1 there. I'm going to hand this off to Vice President Erin Strick for some comments and some information that she has for you. Again, thank you very much. Let me know if you have questions that I can help with at the end. Thanks again for being on. Erin Strick, it's all yours.
Thank you, Matt. Great opening. I hope everybody can hear me okay this morning. We've got all the kinks worked out. The PGA of America has come out with some great news in this troubling time. First of all, for those that still need to get your MSRs in, they are extending that out 1 full year. So everything will now come due on June of 2022. So that's good news. Those associates that are on the call still making your way to membership, instead of 8 years, they are giving you an additional year. So I was having a conversation with an associate and I said, unfortunately, now that you don't have anything going on, this might be a good year to bust some of that work out. And then the dues structure, they have divided that up this year. If you cannot pay your full dues, you do have the option to split that up. These section dues of $376.75 is due at the end of July. And then the small portion that goes to PGA National, which is $161, is due at the end of October. There's some really great information on PGA.org. If you haven't been there, I would suggest you head there. It's awesome. I go there every day just to see what's going on. So I suggest that you would do the same. And in closing, just to speak to Matt's point about just being cognizant of what's going on in our section. I am one of those golf professionals that is out of work at this moment. It's very hard. I never really realized how much I love my job until you can't go to it every day. And I'm very happy for those that are still able to go to work and make money, but you also need to be aware that there are other people struggling. So thanks for the phone call this morning, Matt. I really appreciate it. And that is all I have. I'll throw it back to President Sherlock.
Thanks. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for what you do for this section, and thanks for what you do for me. You can be a voice for for our people in Illinois right now, for all of our membership in Illinois. Keep being that voice. We need your perspective. Carry on. Item 3, Steve Watt, Secretary of our Iowa Section Board. I'm going to chat with you a little bit. Steve, the microphone's yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Again, Matt and Aaron, thank you as well for all you guys have done. And I think before I get into a couple of those touch points, I think we all can listen, and listening's always a good thing. So we gain perspective by the knowledge of our peers, and that can only help us all in the long run. So obviously, everyone be safe and sound. Family first, your staff, whatever you can do to help your fellow professional and staff is always greatly recommended, and obviously it's I think at the forefront of all our thoughts anyway. So PGA.org right now is a great place to be. On there you can find the online library for career advancement, so specialized, certified, and master. If you guys have not looked at any of that stuff, great time to do so. The PGA is providing that for us for 90 days at no additional charge, or no charge at all, I should say. So kind of a good way to dabble and see what's out there. I highly recommend it. I mean, you might think we're above that or past that, but there's always something there that we can learn. So dive in, take advantage of the free resource, and help yourselves out there as well. Kind of along the same lines, if you have not yet done so, PGA Coach, another great resource online that we have. Just a tremendous tool. And certainly, I know myself, I've learned a lot from that as well. So definitely something that you can use and find time to, find time and or make time to do so. It'll only help you be better as a professional and a person. And then finally, everybody wash your hands. I think we all have done that about 800 times a day, and that's all I got for now. And hope everybody stays safe and be well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Great work, great information. As we've had so many of these meetings, and as they change and we have technical difficulties, sometimes you can dump on meetings, sometimes you can't. And we understand that. If you miss a meeting, come back to us on the next one, join in on the next call. Having said that, we all have schedule conflict. So Aaron Kruger had a schedule conflict to give some remarks today. So we're going to jump over Aaron's marks, and we're going to go straight to District Director, Mr. Dave Schneider. Dave, thank you very much for joining us on this call today. Looking forward to what you have to tell us from National. Thanks.
Thank you for the Iowa section for having me on. I know when I speak from Greg Mason's standpoint and the officers in the Iowa section, they are sick of seeing me and they're sick of hearing me talk. Some of the board members are sick of hearing me talk. All I can state is lean on each other, take care of each other, and lean on each other. We are in unprecedented times. The only thing we can do is continue to push our PGA members to PGA.org. That information source, it is a one-stop shop that is truly meant when someone says, well, what the hell is the PGA doing for me? If you haven't been on PGA.org, I'm not going to hang up on you, but I'm going to tell you they're working so hard. And the phone calls from a standpoint of the board members to HQ, it's about every 3 hours I'm on with somebody. John Easterbrook was 11 o'clock last night. Darryl Crawl was 6 o'clock this morning. And kudos to Greg Mason, who is heading up the Central ED Committee for our PGA. We are so hard at work trying to figure out how can we help our PGA members any more than we're doing. The only thing we ask of you and the section members in the Iowa section is to ask, reach out, make a phone call. If you're not getting an answer to something, call us, email us, let us know, and we will get that information to you. But it is changing by the minute. And you heard it in Aaron's voice. It's not by section, it's by state, it's by county. And here in Nebraska, we're one of, I think, 7 or 8 states that really don't have a shelter in place. And we're playing golf. So our members and our boards and our owners are expecting things from us as PGA professionals. You go to a different part of the country or even a different county, and they're saying, what are you doing open that's so completely insincere on what's happening as people are losing their jobs and people are actually dying from this terrible virus. So it is all over the map. So if you're expecting one voice to come out of PGA of America, it's virtually impossible. We had District 8 Director Mark Van Dyke joined us on the call, and he is the Director of Golf in Fort Lauderdale Country Club, where they are literally having helicopters that are flying around to make sure that people are in compliance. And then you go to other parts of the country and you've got 200 golfers playing. So we want to let you know that we are absolutely fighting as hard as we can for the PGA member. We just need to know how we can do that directly to you in the Iowa section. How can we do it in Nebraska? How can we do it in Minnesota and the Dakotas? So with that, I would open it up to questions, whether it's in the chat or anything else. But just know we are on it as hard as we can. The only thing left is for you to tell us what we're missing or what you need, and then we'll jump on that as well. So thank you for letting me be on the call.
Thank you very much. Great information, Dave. We're not getting sick of hearing from you yet, so we'll let you know when we do. Thanks as always for all the hard work. It's a lot of time. Not only are people running businesses and volunteer spots, but they're also attending lots of calls and meetings. But like David said, reach out if you have questions. Let's find some answers to those questions. Next up on our agenda is Executive Director Greg Mason from the Iowa PGA staff. So I'm going to turn this over to Greg and have at it, Greg. You got quite a bit of stuff to give us. So Thank you very much for all you've been doing.
Alrighty, thanks, Matt. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the chat feature right now in case somebody has a question as we go through this for not only Schneid's, but also your officer corps and staff. Currently, Tess and I made the decision after a long wait last week. We went ahead and canceled all junior tour and section events through May 10th, and we based that decision off of the CDC guidelines currently. We will just continue to monitor that in hopes that we get up and going sooner rather than later. I'm sure many of you are having some of the same issues. We will make that announcement publicly later today. Tess has already sent out an email to her junior golfers, and some of you are actually maybe on that list as well, so you might have got that email from Tess, who I thought wrote a very thoughtful email. That was very tough. Casey and I and Kevin Dorrington and Brian Berman are our tournament committee chairs, and we went ahead and extended the deadlines to April 30th for any of our season-long events. So that would be the season-long match play, senior match play, and Harris Team Challenge. And again, we are hopeful that we get to play those. We will adjust those deadlines literally every week, probably as we look through this. And again, this is going to be all based off of what our wonderful Governor Reynolds has been doing, and then also what they're doing on the CDC and national level. We are still working on trying to have a tournament schedule this year. One of the things that I appreciate about the Iowa High School Boys Association, I was on a phone call yesterday with them as they were talking about their spring sports, is they have not panicked in my mind and canceled any events. They're just postponing anything with hopes of, even if they've got to adjust and have a high school season that goes into the middle of June or up to July, that they're going to be able to do that. And I think that's great for not only the kids, but think back as a senior in high school and some of those memories that you created with some, not only your friends, but your coaches too. So that was a very neat phone call that I get to be a part of. As Dave and Matt said, got a lot of communications going through from HQ and District 8, PGA board calls once a week. Chad Pitts and I and Randy and now Shane Hart with the CMAA, we meet literally via email about every 2 hours. And that's, again, trying to keep up on that. So I'll touch on that here in a little bit too, especially in regards to some of you that are on the border states. Checking to see, anybody have any questions so far on our tournament schedule, Tessa's Junior Tour schedule, any of that? And again, I would encourage each of you to try to make sure you try to postpone as many of your events. I think you'll find that if we do get going May 1, May 11th, June 1, June 15th, they're going to need you more than ever to maybe reach out and help them get some of their fundraisers going, or just for their health and wellness. And again, when I talk health and wellness, I'm not talking about losing weight or walking, although that's a part of it, but it's obviously their mental health, which, again, that's where Aaron, Matt, and I and Steve Watt through an email this morning talked about this, and you just got to have perspective on your fellow PGA professionals, because those of you facilities that are currently open in Iowa, we know our governor's coming on at 11. You folks could be in the very same spot that our Illinois golf professionals are currently right now. So let's make sure we continue to be mindful of that. Got Dickie's here. Dickie, don't disagree on that. And again, that's why Tessa's working so hard on her behalf to make sure she gets to reschedule as many of those junior events as they can too. So we're mindful of that. Fortunately, we've got a great partnership with Chad Ellsbury, who leads golf at the Iowa High School Athletic Union. And I know Tess is on regular communication with Lisa Brinkman, who's on the girls union as well. So any more questions on just Iowa PGA, our, I don't know, day-to-day operations as far as our tournament schedule and what we got coming up? We're still working them. We still hope that we're able to run the junior academy this year at Berm's place. And I think Berm's on the phone call, but we're looking to do that. So Tess has been in contact with you and I, like she always does this time of year. So, and I think they're all hopeful too, that we slowly get to slow down on this and get back to normal, because we all need normal. So one of the questions that we get to deal with last week in Iowa, hopefully you saw that email on Friday night. We had a conference call, fortunately, with Steve Larson and his team at the Alcoholics Beverage Division. And as Matt said, we want to make sure that we would be just doing facts and not feelings. So we're trying to give you places and links and where to go to. So in working with them through Thursday night and Friday morning, they came up with basically what the difference between a Class A and a Class C liquor license. And that's on a link that I will send out again tonight. And basically it's on ABD, appleboydog.iowa.gov/COVID-19 updates. And I basically approached them to say, hey, we want to be a part of the solution so that if we are able to continue to stay open, our golf courses that are knowledgeable and are doing the fact finding, as Matt was asking each of us to do, we know exactly what you're looking for from the Alcoholics Beverage Division. So that's on their webpage there now, and just look underneath golf courses. It also shows you a spot that on March 23rd, Governor Reynolds was actually on a radio show and talked specifically about golf and how she still thinks that's an essential recreation. And again, she's thinking of mental health more than anything. Again, that may all change in 5 minutes, but that's as of right now. So another conversation we have, some of the Illinois pros, and I'll be honest with you that Chad Pitts and I and Randy Robinson talked about this about 3 weeks ago. What happens if we shut down or our neighboring states shut down golf, and what's the unintended consequences? Well, we're starting to feel that in Iowa, where I believe it's either 42 or 45 of the states are still open to golf with, varied levels of restrictions to, walking only, to allowing single rider carts, to whatever it is. So thank you, each of you, for practicing your best practices and making sure you're mitigating as much as you can. And I know each of you are still wondering if you're doing enough, and just keep doing it. And when you can put your head on your pillow every night, you hopefully are feeling a lot better than you were in the morning. So anyway, we talked about that, but as of right now, I only know of 2 facilities. However, more than that have contacted me since last Thursday. The Meadows, which is a municipally owned golf course, has elected to do Dubuque County residents only. John Valier, who's also a county run golf course, they went to Iowa residents only as of today, I believe it was. And that's mostly because they were just having an influx, as you can imagine. Illinois golfers, where they can't golf in their state, are coming over to Iowa or Wisconsin or Minnesota. So again, I believe strongly that's why all those states should have kept golf open. And the reason being is they could have kept them in the confines of their border, kept them in their hot spots, make designations similar to what Florida does, because Florida actually still has golf open except for 5 to 6 counties where the hot spots are. So those are some conversations that we have right now going on. And Chad has been in daily contact, and today he talked to Jim Carney, who's our lobbyist in Des Moines, to make sure we get clarifications from not only the governor, but from any of the other, health departments and that sort of thing as we go through this pandemic. On the Illinois side, I should take back. So once we get a best practice email that you can send out, or if John Valier or Jeremy Hawkins is on the line, and if you want to share what you folks did as a best practice, feel free to send that to me, and I'll make sure we get that up on the best practice page as fast as we can. So, but again, keep in mind, we're working closely on the Illinois side. Kerry Williams, who's the ED of the Illinois PGA, and Allie Wells, who's Gateway, which is St. Louis. All three of us share Illinois golf professionals, and they are, if not daily, every other day in talks with their governor, Pritzker, who is relooking at many things, including possibly of opening up golf courses on the back end, just because or in certain areas. Again, using the model of the way Florida has done theirs. So we got a couple questions here. Hopefully, Dickie, I answered your question. I think Tess answered it as well. And again, that's kind of a high-level talk. The Iowa High School Golf Association or Athletic Union and the boys will also have press conferences, I believe, at either noon or 12:30 to announce basically exactly the talking points that I had in a conversation yesterday. Actually, Chad Ellsbury just texted Tess and I. So, okay. So they're going to actually have a press conference this afternoon to kind of bring everybody up to date on what both the boys union and girls unions are going to be doing for spring sports. Thanks for the update on Senior Open. There's JR, and again, JR is in the same boat as E. Ryan Streck in that they'll be glad to listen to you talk. And again, trust me, those golf professionals on that side that are suffering through this, not that they don't have time to do stuff, they're definitely looking to be able to help outreach and do that as much as you can. So again, I would encourage each of you to be mindful of that. Any more questions as we go through here, or again, anything that, and again, I know you feel free to email, text, or call me on anything. And if we don't have the answer, we'll definitely get to you, just as Schneider talked about. Schneider, you want to talk? Are you still on there? Okay. Yeah. You want to talk just high level on the CARES Act, and then obviously you and I both have talked about this before this morning anyway too, is just at any one point we can give you as much information as we can, but I would still lean on your professional people, your attorneys and your bankers and that. And I talked to our accountant last week. So for those that don't know, this new CARES Act it has exempted 501c6s, which is the Iowa PGA Section falls under, and 503c7s, which is what most country clubs operate under. But this is kind of the advice that my people gave me back in 1993 and 2008. That was an 880 or 900 page document. Do not be afraid to still apply, even if somewhere in there it says that it's exempting you from certain things. Let the smarter people in Washington that wrote the bill and the people that are supposed to be administering that bill, let them make the decision. And so that'd be my advice, Schneids, as you go through your phone calls, is don't be afraid to do that. I actually did that. And again, in some cases, they found a different loophole and said, hey, we can't do you under this section, but we can definitely do you underneath this section. And again, based off of that 880 page document.
Yep, thank you, Mace. This has absolutely been front and center for the PGA of America. The legislation and language did have 501c6s and 7s in it all the way up until it got out of the hands of, or when it went directly to Washington. So Seth Waugh, Darrell Krall, John Easterbrook, it was all in there. The language was there. Then when it was rolled out at midnight 4 or 5 days ago, then it was taken out. That immediately caused a tremendous amount of conversation between CMAA, NCA, and certainly PGA of America. That can impact upwards of 4,000 clubs across the country. And that can impact somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 billion of revenue into our economy. And so it does not fall on deaf ears. Immediately that started a chain reaction of letter writing and discussions on Capitol Hill. As late as last night and as early as this morning, again with Darrell Krall, you're all going to be getting a message. We are all going to be getting a message from either President Whaley, it's going to come from Seth Waugh, or potential Darrell, on what we need to do as 501c3 operators. And it's going to be a letter writing campaign to our senators, to our representatives, because that's a big miss. That is a huge miss. Right now, if anyone is saying, what is the PGA of America doing for me? This is the number one thing we can be doing to impacting upwards of 5,000 to 6,000 PGA professionals, because it's directly related to what we're, to our income, to our compensation, and to our employment. Mace said it perfectly. When it comes to the CARES Act, a lot of golf facilities are in it. You have to be talking, your best friends right now need to be your accountants, and your best friends need to be your bankers. Trust me, they know about this inside and out. If you're not making that phone call today, you need to be making it today. If you're a 501c7, there's more work that you need to be doing. You're going to be getting an email that's going to direct you on how to write a letter to your congressman or congressperson. It absolutely has to be done. This is the number one way we can impact PGA employment for those individuals. But as far as filling out the CARES Act, the form, it's as little as 20 minutes for some. It might take 45 minutes for others. You have to apply. Mason said it perfectly. Absolutely apply, even if you don't think you're applicable, because the quick summary on this, as we all know, this is 100% a forgivable loan. But we're paying, I think, upwards of, or just downwards of 1% interest to pay that loan back. We have to show value as PGA professionals to our employers. And right now, that's a number one way we can do that, which then comes back to us as being the experts in our field. So I'm happy to answer any questions. There is numerous individuals that are on your Iowa Section PGA board in Minnesota and in Nebraska. This is our number one effort right now. We've been on it as late as 11 o'clock last night and as early as 6 o'clock this morning with PGA National saying, how can we help get this information across? So you should be seeing it later on today. It's a big, big impact to us.
Before I hand it back to President Sherlock again, I'm just going to echo exactly what those three wonderful officers just told you. Now is the time not be afraid to call somebody. Please call them. I mean, you might be thinking, oh, I'm just gonna, they're too busy, or they're probably sitting at home and they probably don't want to talk to anybody because maybe they lost their job or they're wondering if they're going to go back there. Now's the time to reach out. And again, from a spirit, as you're talking to people, keep your perspective as you go through that. And the one thing my father always told me was, always remember that someone has it worse than you when you're talking to them. And so keep that positivity in there as much as you can. But again, now is the time to reach out and not say something maybe bad happens and you go, boy, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have called that person. So please do that. Reach to each other, because that's one of the great things about 29,000 PGA members. Once a PGA member, always a PGA member, and we've always been there. We've got the hearts of service and servitude. So please do that. So again, Matt, thank you for everything. Schneids, thank you too.
Perfect. Ditto. Great information there. Thank you, everybody, for being on this call. Before we leave here, I'm going to chat my cell phone into the chat bar. If anybody wants to give me a call, feel free to do so at any time. I'm also available by email. Thank you very much. Wash your hands, stay safe, do what's best for your family. stay educated. And I just saw a chat. Governor just announced more business closures. Interesting to hear if that includes golf courses. Thanks, everybody. Let's listen in on what Governor Reynolds has to say. Stay informed, stay educated. Thanks for being on this call. Greg Mason, thank you for driving our bus. You're doing a hell of a job.
Thanks.